This interview, we hear from a member of the Chinese Australian community and talk about some of the differences between East and West. I discover how China handled COVID-19, and we discuss how the population is managed without question. Our interviewee, Cassie, has a very interesting story, and we talk about the decision made by her parents to educate their daughter in Australia and to be separated in order to do so, a decision so often made by Chinese people. The sacrifices made and the value placed upon education and the opportunities that countries such as Australia offer is almost incomprehensible to many of us born in this country. I asked Cassie how she feels about some of the negative attitudes directed at the Chinese community because of COVID, and we discussed the uncertainty of the hospitality and gaming industry where she works, which shut down completely for most of this year, and how the lack of job security has affected her. Cassie talks openly about how hard it was for her to go from working a lot to suddenly managing her 3 children, 2 of which are at school, plus a little toddler back in the home, without her work life to break it up. She is a great example of a working mother shifting gears and readjusting the hat she wears in order to cope with the extended lockdown put in place. I really appreciated the information I received from Cassie's story, and it's always so interesting talking to people who navigate different cultures. We can all learn so much from a deeper appreciation and insight into how other ways of life are lived and that differ from our own, and the shared understanding of where we all meet as human beings, the love that we have for our families and the desire to protect those we love. Hi, Cassie, and thanks for being a part of this podcast, and welcome to the next episode of Lockdown Stories from Inside.
Hi, Amanda. I'm glad I'm here to be with you. So, let's talk about our lockdowns.
Yeah, let's do it. The first part of this interview is going to be based on talking a little bit about your country of origin. So, I know that you're not originally from Australia, but would you like to tell our listeners where you were born?
Yeah, I was born in China, which is a city in southeast part of China.
Okay.
It's named Hangzhou.
Okay.
Yes,
so it's the southeast of China. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite close to Shanghai, but it's in another province.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's quite decent size. We've got I think more than 10 million people there.
Wow.
For the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite like when you Google those travel or like travel blogs and things, it's quite famous for tourism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very famous for, I think the city is very famous for their teas and the silk.
Lovely.
As what I know. Yeah. So people when you go there, when you ask people if you're going to go holiday to China, Hangzhou is always the city on top 10, like the best city you go visit because it's quite safe and it's beautiful. They have the lakes and mountains and
it's very pretty and picturesque. Is it built up? Is it like a big sort of like visually?
It's long history, so it has a rich history as well. Mm-hmm. So people just like the views and city are modern as well. Like you will see everything in the big city and you still feel that kind of cultural, like Chinese culture blended in with all the environment and everything.
Oh, wow. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
And how different is the lifestyle in your hometown? I'm not even going to attempt to actually say what the name of your hometown is properly because I know I'm going to fumble my way through that. But your hometown, what's the culture like in that town? Like what's the lifestyle like? Yeah.
Yeah, from my memory, let's say because it's famous for tourism, like people tend to be quite slow. I know Melbourne is already very relaxing. It's kind of similar to, the other Asian country, people are rushed and working under pressure. Everyone's like, hurry up doing things. No, my hometown is quite slow. Yeah, and they enjoy their lives. Like, weekends, always a family going out to go to the hikings and go enjoy that, like a picnic in the parks. Yeah, all these things. Quite slow, yeah.
Beautiful. How long have you lived in Australia? When did you move over here, and what was the reason for you moving to Australia?
About almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I came 1999 with a family. Okay. Well, I came with family only because that's back to my grandparents, that generation, because my grandpa saw the Western education is much better. That's why he sent my uncle to study in here.
Mhm.
So my uncle came here with a backpack and start from uni to start work from a uni student to be a doctor in Sydney.
Okay, what year was that? Do you know?
Oh, early 80s.
Early 80s, right? Okay, so your uncle came across first to study here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So uncle says, well, the education definitely better, and you gotta gain the English skills to go outside, to see the outside world, then the things, then the highly recommend parents. So my parents came that time, and brought me here.
Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful. So you were a young teenage girl, or
High school kid, not high school, yes, year 8, year
okay.
9.
All right. So
No,
how
you
did you
can't say
find
it
not
was
too
hard
young?
at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard at the beginning. I have absolutely no idea. It's just like the parents told you that, all right, we're going to Australia. That's it. Then I've got no background. I have no idea how to speak English. I couldn't even proper memorize from A to Z. I don't know
Yeah.
much. Yeah, just came in all right, here's your new home. You're going to the language school. You start going to you probably have 3 or 4 months language school. Then you go join the class, go to year 8. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
Well, yeah. As a kid, I don't have a opinion to give in to the parents, so I just came and it came.
Sure. Yeah. So you all came over, and it was quite a sudden decision, it seems, and then you kind of didn't have that much in terms of the English background or any idea about the culture here.
But it's for not, but most of the Asian parents, they think even just saying my parents think education is more important than anything. They probably would sacrifice their career or their jobs and their lives all back into the hometown for the kids to have a better education. That's what they believe.
Yeah, wow.
Which I think they sacrifice a lot. But
Yes.
I'm happy with the life thing here, I guess, because I came not as same as the other overseas students came in along. I came with a family, so it's make a little bit easier than the others.
Yeah,
to
sure.
Start to start this. Yeah. So
I agree. And there's a lot of international students, isn't there, in Melbourne? We have our universities host a lot of people from China actually as well, that come over here seeking tertiary education too. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you're saying it was kind of easier to come as a young adolescent and to kind of integrate that way. At least you had your family here, you weren't alone. How many people in your family that you came with?
I came just with my mom.
Okay, so your dad stayed back in China?
Yeah, dad was working.
Sure.
So mom came as a support person, like a guardian. So because I've got uncles had said family there, we got more information than the others. At least we weren't just being oh, I don't know where to start. At least we have got some helps.
Yeah.
It's hard, but just not as hard as these other people when they all by themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel for those people too, definitely. Yeah. Talking about your home country again in China, how has COVID affected, it's a really big question, but how has COVID affected China as far as you can ascertain from your communications with people back in China?
Yeah, so from what I read from the news, like the Chinese newspaper or those online news, or from what I heard from the family relative, like all my aunties, in my city, they were doing well because they are not they don't have the big bomb at the beginning. You know, the virus start go viral when they in Wuhan, the city.
Yep.
Yeah, but we are once they figure out that's really dangerous, virus transmit between people, they start locking down city by city. So by that time, we probably only have 5 or 10 in the city, and because of their different way of lockdown, it's not like in us in Melbourne. Like when you lock down, you can have a 5 kilometers radius, like you can walk in. No, they once they say lockdown, you lock down inside your house.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't
Talk
even
us
go.
through that. That's really interesting. And before you do, I
Yeah,
just want to ask you one more question about where your hometown is located and in relationship to Wuhan. So how far away is Wuhan from where you were born?
I don't have the actual like how far away, but I let's say Wuhan is middle of China. We
Mm-hmm.
are on the right border of China, so
Right. So
it's
quite a
like
long.
half China. Yeah, half China distance.
Mm, okay.
Yeah, so
So yeah, so tell me a little bit about what happened because I'm really interested in this because I don't know how China
yeah,
handle it really. So you talk to me about what they did
so
when they.
that's what I heard. It's like firsthand what I heard from my aunties and all my primary school student kids. We like the friends. We still
Yeah.
have 2 or 3 in contact. So when they start lockdown, it's not like us. Oh, you can go exercise, you can do anything. No, you lock down. You lock down inside your house. You can't
Wow.
even go out. They have those like community workers just going saying, "All right, give us," and like they talk through like using the social apps, like say you're saying WhatsApp group of the whole building, and then there
Mm.
is 1 or 2 people in charge of this building to deliver daily stuff for you, saying just like when we had a lockdown in Melbourne, that public housing.
Housing commission flats, yeah.
Yes, that exactly
Yeah.
like them. You can't go out. You're not allowed to going out. You don't have time to exercise. Like you don't have that like right to go out to exercise or anything. Kids don't go to school. People
But
working from home.
you're literally in your apartment building all day. Is
Yes,
that
and yes, no
wow?
grocery shopping or anything. People deliver all the food, like milk or the food and fruit, meats, everything
Wow.
to your
So
door.
how long did that period
Rough,
go for?
I think roughly about a month
Yeah.
because of they doing that way. So it's controlled really fast.
Is it really? And so
Let's say
that
it's
actually worked really well, did it?
yes, because it's
Fantastic.
different from the mentality in Asian country, like the people in Asian, like people in China, and here are the different. When the government say something to them, most of them they will just obey whatever they say. They
Hmm.
don't just say, "All right, I don't think I think it's against my right. I'm not gonna do it." No, people don't have the chance, like they don't have the option to saying, all right, I'm going to do this. No, you don't have to. When the government says, all right, you're going to lock down, stay at home, you're going to wear your mask, that's what they do.
And
They will just follow.
I mean, I'm very interested by that too, because yeah, you're very right. Like it is a completely different mentality in the West. Um, that may be a good little segue for me to talk about this petition or this brochure that I got in my mailbox today. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to know your thoughts on it. Just for listeners, it's a brochure that has it's on the front of the cover. It says "End CCP," End Chinese Communist Party, eliminate the demon CCP, and it's a really weird brochure that I got in my letterbox, and it says it's talking about how it's time to end the Chinese Communist Party. And if you could sign the petition, it's got a little scan, a QR code to scan. So you can just do that quickly and sign this petition that's talking about the fact that this pandemic could have been prevented if the Chinese Communist Party did not lie. Its cover-up has led to a global pandemic with hundreds of thousands of deaths. Will they ever stop lying, or should we stop trusting? So it's quite condemning of the CCP. Now,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I want to ask you, what do you think about these sorts of things that are happening? I mean, I haven't really, before the pandemic happened, I've not seen something like this in my neighbourhood. I have been listening to some discussions and global context on social media and other ways of communicating that we've got that are talking a lot about I guess there's a bit of blame that is going on around China at the moment, particularly. Some people are blaming America. I mean, there's blame going on everywhere. But what do you
Yes.
feel as a person that knows that country fairly well, that has strong ties to it? How do you feel, when you hear that these sort of messages that are coming from the
That
community?
I'm just saying that's kind of thing is just a terrible, terrible racist information against the one particular community in
Mm,
here.
mm,
Seriously. this is not gonna, like, those kind of brochure, I think it's not gonna do anything to the CCP in China or the people in China. It's only gonna make it the people in here, like in Australia or other part of the world, like all the, even not just the Chinese, like all the other, the Asian community being like make them the victim of those racist assault and things.
Comments, absolutely. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, that's just, it's like the brainwash people saying, all right, I understand people are angry of this pandemic. Like a lot of people, they just, like, leave those angry or racist comments on the internet or social media, but that's not how you, like, I don't know how to say, like, it's just terrible way to,
yeah. I know. I was quite shocked when I saw that, actually, because, as I said, I've never my community is like yours. We actually live in a similar area. Is actually there's a lot of people that are actually from Asian countries, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I've never seen anything before this year that is so obviously and overtly racist and condemning of the CCP or any part of Asia in my life. So it's really an interesting time, isn't it, for these sort of culture wars that are happening on a global scale.
Yeah, but I kind of understand, like, why people saying that way, to be honest. Like, I think in no other country, when the government says that you can't do anything, then you just like follow the rule strictly, like without saying, without like have your opinion to speak out. But that's how the Chinese government to manage their people. That's their ways.
And
if
how
their
do you?
People's happy.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but how do you feel
That's all right.
about? How do you actually feel about now? You're in Australia. I'd like to kind of explore this a little bit. How do you feel about the difference in culture in that way? So I can hear that you're saying it really did work. It was quite effective to actually, in this instance, lock down and do it really thoroughly, and no one's questioning it, and therefore in a month the numbers go right down, and it actually did benefit the community on that level. How do you feel about the different ways in which Australians handle these sort of, I guess, social changes and social restrictions coming from a culture where we do question things a bit more?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, like, in the Western country, like in here in Australia, we respect people, like, more about their rights. We listen to their opinions. But for the population, such a huge population in China, lock down strictly, like thoroughly, without even giving you the option, that's the only way to make things under the control. Seriously, if they don't do that, there will be more than like whatever they've been already infected. It's going to be a lot of more death in there because of such a big population. And it's not everyone as like in China, they've got a lot of area that has been not as educated as the place in like in the rest of the world. The people just don't have don't access to anything. That's the only way to control them, to like not control them, to control the virus, to saying, all right, you're not going to go anywhere to help you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the virus is going to travel like
wildfire
between the city. Yes, it's just go viral. It's just, you can't stop it.
I think it's really difficult for Australians to understand sometimes, particularly if you haven't travelled overseas much, how the population of our cities, our countries, is so different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like I think the major reason is just because of the population. If they have less people, like only like 1/10 of the people in there, they probably will do as same as the Western country. But because they, like, saying their apartment building, 2-bedroom apartment building, they the apartment room, they probably can have 4 or 5 people living there as a whole family. So that's how many people in that city. If they don't do that way, I bet like they're probably not able to control the whole virus thing.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, no, that's really valid. Thank you. And so you've been able to communicate with your friends and family back home, you're saying, in the country. Is that just via Zoom platforms and things like that, video conferencing?
Yes, that's right. Like pretty much.
And how are they going? How are they feeling? I guess It's been a year now, almost a year since the outbreak of this new kind of virus that we hadn't seen before in China, and that's where it started. And then they've kind of gone through almost a year now, because we're heading into December, aren't we? So of kind of dealing with this, and just from what you're communicating with, or who you're communicating with, I should say, how are they feeling now?
I think they are just back to normal life. Like from what my city, like all my family and relatives and friends in my hometown, the city, like their life is back to normal. Like it's a lot normal than us.
Sure,
they can have party. Yeah, the restaurants open. Like people still wearing masks. Like they try to keep social distance, but it's not really they can do it. Like because of the population, too many people. But like there's like in my city, there's no case for probably 5 or 6 months now. That people can go party, school back to indoor sports is back to normal. They go and travel to the other cities for the sports events. Kids can go, like the domestic holiday is really hot at the moment. Yeah,
okay.
it's like
so
normal.
they can travel within the country. Are their borders open?
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
I think they are selectively to go to Singapore. That's what I know. As long as you can provide that you'll have a COVID test. Like, when you go to, like at the moment, if you want to go travel to China, you have to provide 3 days COVID test clear to go on board of the flight.
Right. Okay.
So that's,
interesting.
That's what they do.
And they've sort of resumed normal life. There is a little bit of travel happening, and everyone's sort of mingling again, and life's back to normal. But you're just saying the only thing is they're still wearing the face masks in their sort of day-to-day lives. Is that right?
Yeah, that's just like it's your personal option.
Yeah,
like
right.
Mask is not. Yeah, like to Australia, like to people in here, I think mask is quite a new thing to them. But for the Asian country, not only in China, like I believe in Korean or like Japan, all this like country, when during their winter time, they just wear masks because everyone like they don't want to get the transmit from those like flu and cold from the other people.
Yeah, definitely.
So they wear a mask to protect them.
Yeah.
So it's not a new thing to them. So they every year during winter they are happy to wear the masks to protect themselves from different.
If they want to, and it's a personal decision, and most people decide that they'd like to.
Yeah, the government didn't say like, oh, you have to or anything. No, it's just a personal choice.
Interesting, thank you. I think you're right. It was it's all very new for us with all of these things that have happened. So thanks for that.
Yeah, that's why like when you see that like the people in Asian country, they use different patterns and as we're wearing the hats. They have a different patterns, pictures of the masks, and just as a decoration kind of purpose.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. It's definitely been interesting for me to see how Australians have adapted or not adapted to these. Yeah, they are more Asian practices actually with this handling of the virus. So it's a really, really interesting point of difference. I think you guys are sort of a bit more used to having to do that because of the high population and risk of infection being a bit greater with the dense living.
Well,
thank you. Well, sorry, keep going. What were you going to say?
Oh, no. Just saying because the city have the high pollution as well during winter. They do that to prevent asthma or all these all these other problems.
With the borders closing, this year for us in Australia and particularly in Victoria, what are some of your concerns as someone with strong connections overseas, potentially, not knowing if you're going to ever go back to your country of origin or if those sorts of things will be open to you again? Do you even have concerns? Maybe you don't. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't have too much personal concern about that because we don't go there that much. Like we probably go once in 5 years to visit the relatives. The more concern is about my mom. She usually goes once a year to visit all the aunties, like her sisters and like her friends.
Yeah, sure.
She has all the connection back in there. Yep. So she's the one being like, when a bit struggle and thinking about when can she go back to travel again. not only in China, like we've got a family in Singapore and Hong Kong as well.
Yeah.
So she's concerned like, oh, when can we go like travel freely instead of just like you need to provide that you have a clear like a COVID test and those kind of things, like the limitation.
Yeah, I don't even know at this stage. You may be able to tell me actually. At this stage, November in 2020 in Australia, what is the situation with overseas travel at the moment? Are they saying
I
that
don't
it's
think we are open. No,
I don't think we are
I don't
either.
think so. No.
And there's not really any indication as to whether that or not that will occur in 2021 either, really. So we'll see.
Yeah, like friends of mine that were thinking like they were thinking send their kids to study their high school in here, but they changed their mind because like of the pandemic, and then there was like we're not sure when the kids are allowed to come to here to study just for study. So
I know. I think everything's definitely not going to be I think everyone's going to be pretty careful with that sort of thing. The government decisions around that are going to be made very carefully, from what I can gather. Wow. Well, thank you. Those are really good insights into China and into some of those issues that come up with those sorts of things. I appreciate your openness with that. We're going to just move into the socioeconomic status and living arrangements section of your own life in Australia. So you're saying to me that you've been here since you were starting high school, whereabouts do you live right now in Victoria? Is it in relationship to Melbourne, maybe?
Yeah, I'm in the far east of Melbourne.
Okay. Do you want to state the suburb that you're living in?
Ringwood North.
So you're in Ringwood North. And can you describe Ringwood North? So Ringwood North is in metropolitan Melbourne. Do you want to just describe to listeners a little bit about Ringwood North, what it's like? It's a place to live?
For my area, let's say it's very family orientated. Like it's most of the household here are families, and we are surrounded by a lot of trees and uphill, downhills. It's quite a nice area.
Yeah. Like so lots of parks and gardens.
And the bushlands.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area.
Yeah, so it's a suburb and it's in the east of Melbourne. I reckon it's probably about half an hour. Yeah, would you say half an hour from Melbourne?
Yeah, around that. Yeah, it's about 30 kilometers from Melbourne CBD to Ringwood North.
And what's your neighbourhood like in terms of multiculturalism, Cassie? Is there many people from different cultures there, or is it fairly white or fairly, is there a mixture?
Yeah, I think it's quite multicultural. Like I bump into the neighbours, like my next door is a typical Aussie family, like old couple, they're nice. And then the door next is a young couple who are Asian and Indian family combined. So it's quite multicultural, but let's say if they're really nice. Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
It's like we have all kind of diversity in this area.
Yes, the East definitely does. What do you think the main political inclinations are in the region? If you kind of get a sense of it, do you think people are sort of more Liberal voters or Labor voters, or is there a Green or Independent kind of push, or what do you think?
For this one, I'm not really sure. When was the election last time? I see both sides of Liberal and Labor, but
I think you're right. I think it actually does swing a little bit in that area from my understanding. Would you think your neighbourhood of Ringwood North would be predominantly classified as more of a professional neighbourhood in terms of people in their work and their occupations? Or are there more sort of trades and kind of more kind of blue collar work?
Let's say they are quite like they are middle to high class. Let's say like people are most of them they are like both they're like saying the couples they're both working.
Yes,
and then I met some of them working in the professional areas.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite like a white collar area, let's say.
Yeah, I think so. Although I think you are right that I think that there's a bit of a mixture there. But you to I think the North Ringwood demographic would probably be described as middle to high.
Yeah, because we are very close to the park culture, which people has a decent, like a huge land, and there's like $1 million house. So
Yeah, it's quite an affluent
yeah.
area, definitely.
Mm,
Yeah, it's next
mm.
door, isn't it? The suburb North Ringwood. It's pretty much next
Yeah,
door to Park
we are
Orchards.
across the road just to the
Yeah,
park culture.
yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's a really nice part of the world. And do you reckon your household income status or your socioeconomic demographic would fall into that
Mm-hmm.
same middle to high class that sort of seems to categorize your neighborhood a bit? Or do you think you're a bit different to
I,
that?
I think so, because
Yeah,
the husband working as a legal professional. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, just to give you some stats, so just to give you some figures, in order to classify in Victoria as being in the middle class bracket, or the
yeah.
weekly household income needs to be between
Mm-hmm.
about $700 to $2,499. If you're in the high socioeconomic status demographic, you would have a weekly income of $2,500 or more. So it's quite a, like the middle class is quite a, there's quite a difference between
Between
700
yeah.
and 2,500, isn't there? And a lot of people who are having two people working in the household would definitely, that would definitely up them into that more high
Mm.
income status. So, mm,
Yeah, I think for our family household, yes, we will, because both me and my husband are working. So
great.
yes, we
Yeah,
will go
cool.
for the high one probably.
And who do you live with in your home? Just getting on to those living arrangements. So you've got your husband, and who else is in your
Yes,
home?
husband, 3 kids, and my
Yep.
mom lives with us as well.
Oh, wow. So grandma's
Hmm.
around. Excellent.
Yeah, it's just because the pandemic, like we're not like before the pandemic start,
Hmm.
when they say, oh, there's gonna be a restriction, people that time people were like rumors saying there's gonna be a restriction, things gonna happen. So I just said to my mom, you're not like good at driving, and it's
Hmm.
not very convenient for you to travel to buy the groceries. Might just as well moving into with us, so I
Sure.
can take the rest of the yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
And
quite common for Asian families lives together.
yes, I heard that. Yeah. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And describe your house. So how much space do you have? How many bedrooms is there in your home? And like walk us through your house.
Uh, we have a big house. We have 4 bedrooms. So the younger one, my youngest stay with us. Like the kids have their own bedroom, and it's one spare room for my mom as well.
Lovely.
And it's on the like a big 800 square meters big land. So we have front yard, backyard, lots of garden to do, lots of the trees and grass, and like a lot of like yes, I probably spend all my free time at my backyard doing like mowing the lawns and looking after my trees and plants.
Lovely. That is so beautiful. So you've really got a lot of space for you all to sort of be comfortable in, and grandma as well, and your mum. So that's great.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, and before we get into the work life questions, just describe a typical weekday. What was a typical weekday like for you before the pandemic hit and before, things changed a little bit? What was just a normal weekday like?
So, yep, I work in the hospitality, just let you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have to work, I'm not working like 9 to 5 office hours. So, usually I'm the one taking the kids to school,
Mm-hmm.
drop them off, go to work, and hubby just do his normal stuff like go to work 9 to 5 in the office.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the kids, we will leave the kids at after school if I can't finish as early at that time. And
Yep.
hubby going to pick them up.
Okay, so just
Yeah,
for
then
overseas
we
listeners, that's a after school care. So obviously, that's a program that runs at primary schools, and so primary schools for
Yeah.
looking after kids. Yeah.
So yeah, we will leave the kids at the after school and from like 3:30 to about 6 o'clock, the
Mm-hmm.
latest. The hubby finish about 5:30, rush to pick them up and go home. And we
Yep.
usually prepare the meal, like the lunch or dinner, the night before, so it's easier for them to just heat it up to start. Like they don't because my finish time can be like depends 6 or 7. in
I
the
see.
afternoon so they just look after themselves, just heat up, don't need to do a big meal or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then
Okay.
sometimes moms comes over and she will prepare for the fresh cooked dinner also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess we're going to move into now how things have changed for you. But first, before we do that, do you want to talk us through what your role is or what your occupation is at your work? And and then we can talk about how things have changed a little bit in this time.
I work in the hospitality, so I work like 4 days on, 4 days off. Which is in the 4 days working days, it can be like 2 days to days from 6 to 6 on nights, and then I do graveyard shift work.
Wow.
Nights,
And so
nights as well.
That's amazing. And so you're
it
traveling to go. Sorry,
yeah,
I was just going to say you're traveling a little while to get to work, or is it local?
Yes. So the workplace is in the city, which is about 40 minutes for me to, like, when you have put on the peak traffic and the things to go to work. And it's in the city.
It's busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get 4 days. You had 4 days on and 4 days off.
Days off.
Okay.
Yeah. So that helps because I do night shift. That helps me to look after the kids as well. Like for the kids, the picking up and drop off. If I'm doing nights, that'll be easier.
Yeah. Wow. And how did all of that change, Cassie, when your industry was affected by a lockdown and the pandemic coming in and stuff? And when did that change? Do you want to talk a little bit about sort of you were going to work as normal, and then when we went into restrictions and the lockdown, did it just sort of stop all of a sudden, or?
Yeah, well, for us, for our industry, like I work in the hospitality, which is more like other gaming industry in Melbourne. So once the pandemic hits, we already have been affected because we don't have many international travel to come in. Well, but that time the business still goes normal, and when the government placed the restriction on, we just got a notice saying like one day we were at the work and next day saying, all right, all the like I work in a casino, so they said the casino need to be closed next day completely.
Right.
Just all like from one day we're working as normal and next day all of the stuff like gaming stuff, doesn't matter if you are front house or back house, everyone just being stood down until further notice. That was a big shock. Let's say people like include me, we feel like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? It's like a stood down, how are we gonna feed the family and the thing, just like
absolutely,
everyone was in, like, people are scared.
Totally.
That's when the first we were told like, oh, all right, you can't keep going on the business anymore, you're going to close everything, all the venues has closed, restaurant, everything. Yeah.
So you just felt like you did not have any security at all and you had no idea what was going to happen next.
We're being impacted really heavily. It's not like the others, there is a way for them to keep the business. We are just shut down completely.
That's right.
So considering we've got more than 10,000 staff for the company. So that was a really scary moment.
Absolutely. So the doors shut, everything stopped, tools were down, and you were told to go home, and then
waiting for the further notice.
Yeah. And are you still doing that now? Are you still doing that now?
We had a notice saying like, everything's go back to normal. So we are going back to have reopen all the venues and things next week.
Okay, so it's now November. So this happened in what? Do you remember what date it was, or what?
23rd of March. I clearly remember that day. Yeah. So it's 8 months.
Far out. What a change. I can imagine. I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like even the company didn't get notice, like a lot notice. It's just like on that day they got a notification from the government saying, all right, you guys can't keep running the business anymore because it's too dangerous for the virus to go transmit between the people in the venue, and you guys going to close. So we're working 24 hours to kind of like close the shop. So close the whole company, all the venues and the restaurants and all. Yeah.
And then did you just go, then you went home and you just basically were, did they offer you any financial assistance for that time?
Yeah, company was good. Well, our company was pretty good. That time they offer us COVID payment, which is the company paid out to support their staff
Yeah.
for their financial crisis, saying like all of a sudden everything's changed. Yeah, until now, if like we still have a COVID hardship fund from the company, saying like if you're suffering from a really bad financial hardship, you can apply for it. So basically the company took money out of their pocket to support their staff,
I
which
see.
is pretty good. Comparing to the other a lot of heavily impacted industry, I think we at the moment we try they like when the I think the business coming back slowly, they still
Yeah.
try to get people as many as of us to go back to work, which we are happy. I'm appreciate, let's say,
Yes.
the
You're grateful
support
for
from
it.
the So the
Absolutely.
support from the company.
And what insights do you have to, the hospitality industry at large, not just your own, company, but
Yeah.
how about the impacts of COVID in Victoria and the social restrictions and the decisions made about that over that 8-month period too? Because I know, as you were saying, in China, it was kind of like thorough lockdown, 1 month, it's sort of done. But we've sort of had this extensive lockdowns, different stages we've moved through, and it's kind of gone on for a little while. And what's the impacts on your industry, you reckon, a hospitality industry in that way?
I think it's really bad. Even we have a little bit loosen on those restrictions, saying like you can still go to takeaway and thing, but a lot of like saying restaurant or cafe, they not rely on those takeaway food.
Mm-mm.
And when they close the door for the business, they still have to pay their rent. I've got a friend running a cafe. She said, well, did they rather close the shop instead of open it like for the takeaway coffees and food? They're not going to making money, but they still have to pay the staff, the rents, and everything.
Yeah,
They don't have
exactly.
extension on their rent. And not
Yeah.
only just the hospitality, friends of mine working in the hair salon. They don't have business for probably have for 5 or 6 months.
No.
But during that 5 or 6 months, she still has to pay the rent.
They didn't have
They have
any
to pay their.
yeah, that's really interesting because I don't know the ins and outs of it because I'm not a small business owner, but I'm not sure if there was some kind of government assistance for sort of halting those processes like rentals and stuff like that.
I heard there is a support for them, but that's not going to help a lot.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a minimal assistance, isn't it?
yeah,
A lot of
it's
businesses went
minimal.
under, that's for sure, definitely.
Yeah,
And it's such, as you say, such a long time, and so you're only just now getting notice that you may be going back. Do you know when that's
yeah.
going to be yet, or
We are still waiting for the next announcement of
next
how
announcement?
we.
Yep.
Yeah, our wait for on the 23rd of November. The government decides saying, all right, we're going to lift the more restrictions or we're going to stay the same. That's all
Yeah.
depends. At the moment, we are open for certain people to come into the venue in my company, like in my industry. So we only getting book. People need to book to get into the venue.
Yes,
And a
there's small
limited
bookings
people.
taken, isn't there? Yeah, limited people. So
Yes.
restaurants have just opened. I was just talking about this in my last interview, actually. The roadmap out of lockdown was, as Dan Andrews has termed it, or his government has termed it. And so there's this gradual lifting of restrictions, not just kind of all of a sudden we're back in. It's a slow process of emergence, isn't it? And you're still waiting for that next announcement. He's been doing these announcements every couple of weeks, hasn't he? Our premier.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were sort we have 14 days on our date, which has a 0 case and 0 deaths. But we hope that there is something happening tomorrow. But from today's on the news, and he said, "Oh, we're still going to wait until the 23rd." So let's wait and see. Hopefully,
fingers crossed for
we've been
you.
doing well.
Yeah.
We've been doing well. 14 days with no case. Considering Melbourne has such a high number before.
Yeah. It seems okay. Who knows? It's it goes up and down, doesn't it? But I mean, I assume in summer, that the cases are going to be pretty low, but we'll see. Let's move into the relationships section of the interview now. And thank you so much for being so candid about. Yeah, I know. Here we go. Thank you so much for your information about your workforce and how that industry has been affected. It's a really valid contribution, actually, to the podcast around the hospitality industry. But yeah, we're going to talk a bit about relationships now and the impact of lockdown. So you're in a relationship, you're married. How long have you been in your relationship with your husband for?
11 years.
11 years.
Wow, that long.
And you've been living together and married in that 11-year time?
Yes, yes, since.
Yeah. And you've got 3 children and your mother living with you. So I'm sure that there's been, and you're at home together more now. So I'm sure there's been some interesting times in your relationship in the last 12 months. Let's discuss some of those things. So maybe, have you guys felt that you've argued a little bit more, or has lockdown actually brought you closer together because you've been in each other's space more,
It's quite interesting because I thought it would be hard for us to stay under the same roof for that long, because we were always joking that you'll be lucky that I haven't killed you in the 6 months on the same roof. But this pandemic has brought us closer, to be honest. Beautiful. I don't know how.
That's so nice
because me and my husband, we were talking about the divorce rate has been increased crazily during this pandemic.
Yeah.
And we were just like, but that was surprisingly we are a lot closer than before.
Wonderful.
We had an argument at the beginning of it. It's just like every day you see the same people under the same roof. We don't have a much place to go. Like at that time, we're only allowed to go out once. So you see the same person under the same roof all the time.
Totally,
Because, I'm a very impatient person. Let's say I'm always like a rush to go this, but he's very slow. Somehow it works well.
Well, opposites attract, and it's that polarity, isn't it? Sometimes I think we have this yin and yang experience of going, well,
we needed something to make it smooth.
That's right. So is there any sort of significant moments or memories that you have, either positive or negative, of your experience together in relationship through the COVID lockdown?
Because of the lockdown, we understand it's more like we still have argument, but now we have more time to explain to each other, explain myself why we had this feeling, why would this argument start at the first place. So it's make us understand each other more. Like before, we're both working full time with the 3 kids. We don't even have the time to sit at the dining table to have a quiet dinner for like half an hour each. So if there is argument, there is always misunderstanding in between each other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now we have, so that's why it brought us together.
Yeah, so you're just less busy, you're just not running around so much. So you actually have more space and time to actually understand.
Because I've been stood down for these 8 months, I have more time to think about, am I overreacting to these kind of things? Why would I argue about those small things? Like he's working, he's tired. Everyone has their pressure under their shoulder. So it makes me more understanding about what he's doing. So we have time, more time to think about things.
A slower pace has really been a benefit to you in that way.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, agree.
That's really nice to hear. And how are you feeling about your relationship given that you've had that actually is quite a positive experience for you, that slowed pace? How are you feeling now as we emerge and we are going to get ready to go back to that life? How are you feeling about that in terms of how you'll relate to your husband and your family potentially now?
Well, at least later, up from now, I know how to solve the problem if there is a problem.
Okay.
What's the best way to deal with it instead of just leave the problem aside? Because if you don't solve the problem, there is always a problem there, and it's going to become bigger and bigger.
Sure. Yeah, good advice. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. And yeah, maybe we can all take a little bit of what we've learned through lockdown, the things that we have learned that have served us into the
Mm,
next phase as we emerge from this experience and kind of take what we've learned with us and hopefully
yeah.
have grown from it. We're going to talk a little bit about children now and
Oh.
schooling. Here we go. So you've got three children, and do you want to tell us
Yes.
their ages?
Yeah, I've got two girls and one boy. They are
Mm-hmm.
9, 7, 1.5.
Oh, so
Yeah, it's
little.
a big gap. Yeah, the big gap between the second one to third ones.
And there's the little one's a boy.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. So two
the
girls and
girl
a
one.
little boy. Beautiful. And um, obviously your experience of being a mother has changed a lot because you were previously juggling work and motherhood at the same time. And you've had this sort of 8 month period where you've been in the home, on the ground with your children, and they haven't been at school, have they? And your little one,
No.
yeah, was your little boy at childcare at times?
Yes,
Or
he
yeah,
was. He was.
okay. Yeah. So how was that for you, I guess, coming back to full time mothering and actually just having a rest from the work situation and just really focusing on being around your kids all of the time?
It's hard, let's say. Let me be honest to you, it's really hard. Like
Mm,
when I first transferred from like a full-time working mom to the stay at home, like you have to watching your kids doing their homeschooling, and with a one little year and a half running around screaming and yelling, I was like almost pull off all my hairs.
yes.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
It is, yeah, it is just too hard.
Mm,
And because the remote learning, like you learn through your Zoom, you talk to your friends like through those like online social apps. It's new to them as well,
sure.
and they
Yeah,
like you communicate to your teacher through that. It's hard for them. Let's say I know
absolutely.
they pick up really quick, but I still think it is hard. It's not as good as a face to face
No.
education, like at the school, like when you like go to the school like normal days.
What grade? So what grades so you've got 9 and 7. So that means
So they
yep.
are grade 3 and grade 1.
Yeah, so they're still quite little. They're not teenagers, who are obviously quite
No,
used to,
yeah,
and even older primary school kids who are used to kind of doing a little bit more online socializing. So yeah, so we had they were all so your two daughters are at the same educational
yeah,
institution.
yes,
And how much did you have to facilitate that remote learning? And was it actually feasible or easy for you to do that?
let's say I at the beginning I put a lot effort into it to
Mm,
for them to get used to this online learning. Like at the beginning, it's all kind of like newest things to them. They feel excited, and it's soon, like very soon, they lose their interest in learning the things.
yeah.
It's doable, let's say, but it's just like you have to sitting next to them, especially for my second one, the grade one.
Mm.
She's just started at school, like the grade one. She
Mm,
was like still struggle to learn by herself. Well, a very struggle. She
absolutely.
was like, yeah, when the teacher says something, find this kind of material doing this kind of task. She has no idea, absolutely no idea where to find the material.
No, so
And
it was quite
because I think,
hands on for you to actually
yeah,
help
like
her with
you
that. Yeah.
literally had to spend a day to when they are class time, you have to sitting there
Yeah.
literally to help with her.
You're teaching them. You are actually teaching them because there's a teacher
Yes,
and then there's an interface, which is the screen, and then there's your
I'm the
child.
teacher's assistant, like yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
to help the kids to
Explaining.
get the thing.
And then you had the 1.5-year-old running around in the midst of all that, the toddler.
Yeah, and
Wow.
like he can never stop. He is
No.
screaming. He wants different things. He doesn't understand when you tell him like, "Oh, give me a sec. I need to help your sister doing this." And no, he
No.
would never give you any time. Like any yeah.
Oh, Cassie, I completely understand. Yeah. What a baptism of fire for you to come back to after you've yeah, after such a different experience of life in the last, 12 months leading up to that particularly. That's full on. Um, Did your daughters follow the curriculum set by the school? Did they do, like, like all the work that they were instructed to do each day, or did you sort of just pick and choose bits and pieces? How did that look?
Well, at beginning, we just follow the rules, like whatever the school give a task to us, we will just go follow everything to the every task that has been complete. And also we're adding up, like we're being like, we're adding up a little bit, which I think the area they're interested at. But after like half, I think we're being locked down, like to do homeschooling for 2 school terms, more than that.
Yes, I think
Well,
maybe even a
yeah,
bit more.
more, yeah. So after 1 or 2, like after the first term, the second term when we started, I was like, I feel they been feel really depressing.
Yes.
Like because the mental health impact on them has been changed a lot. So I was like, well, do the things you are happy to do. Join to those like Zoom or webinar face like contact with like talk to your communication to your friends.
Yes.
And all the rest, if you're interested, you do it. Otherwise, I'm happy for you to leave it.
Yeah.
Because I'll just go outside, go play the sports you want, or go for a walk. Because it's just too much for them.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
second half, I started not following the school like tasks. We just pick the things that they are interested.
You let go of the expectation that you had to do every single thing, and they had to do it, and you sort of decided for yourselves what was right and what wasn't worth doing. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you one.
No, what were you going to say?
I said at the one stage, my grade 3 was so depressed when they said, "Oh," when I told her, "We're not sure if you're going back to the school in the next term," because by that time, I think by then they said, "Oh, the only prep to grade 1 kids to go back to school." That time when we had the first announcement about the kids go back to school, they only said, or they only confirmed that the only prep the lower grade kids to go back to school, and because she's grade 3. She probably wouldn't be able to go to school. She had a meltdown. She was cryingly, like couldn't help. Like it's just like couldn't put herself together.
She was inconsolable.
Yeah, it's so hard when you like. It's so heartbreaking when you see your little kids crying only because she wants to see her friends.
Absolutely.
And she only wants to just go running around the schoolyard and things. I was in tears as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I said to her, I was like, anything I can help. Like if you want me organize the Zoom like meeting to catch up with your friends, I can more than happy to do that. It's just their mental health has been heavily.
Absolutely.
I never realized, this kind of thing can impact the children's mental health so bad until that day. She usually a very calm and quiet person. Like, she never been so drama, but that day she was,
Yeah, right. She really let you
completely,
know. I think that just for overseas listeners or people that are outside Victoria that didn't, we had the kindergarten children in the emergence from lockdown. As I said, we had these stages where the schools were starting. They were talking about opening up the schools again because they realised that the impact on families was pretty big, having the kids at home and having to manage all of that all of the time, and not seeing the mental health cost for children not being socialised was potentially quite big. So they decided to let kindergarten childcare and kindergarten and grade prep, the foundational levels, and then up until grade 2s go back first. But they said grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 was still going to be at home. And which is a really interesting demographic to look at, because those are the age groups that really love their friends a lot, and they really have already established friendships, haven't they? And they actually really need to be socializing with their friends a bit more.
Exactly.
Also, the year 11 and 12 students were allowed to go back in that first. So VCE, final years of school, they were allowed to go back first. And they're the students that actually probably, in a way, kind of did best, did okay at home, did the best probably out of, within reason, out of home, doing remote learning, because they have a lot of computer online material anyway in those final years of school. So, it was an interesting interesting decision, and we know why they were doing it, but it was an interesting one to watch with all of that middle band of children who are actually dying to get back to their friends, and that were told that they weren't actually going to do that with their younger siblings were, or their older siblings were, or whatever.
That's right. Like
Huge.
even we could understand. I could understand why they made a decision, but it's too hard for the grade 3 to understand why the government make such a decision at the first place. Or her understanding is like, oh my God, I'm not gonna see my friends for the next term. I can't do that. Like I miss them deeply. So it's too hard for her.
Wow. Absolutely. So getting back to the remote learning thing just a little bit more, but what were your observations of the school's ability to actually deliver education remotely? Do you think, you said, it was kind of doable, but, your children kind of disengaged somewhat. So in terms of this ever happening again, what do you think the schools could have done differently, or what would you recommend maybe as a mother that was watching this process for schools to do as they deliver this remote learning?
From what I feel for this lockdown, like with the homeschooling, we had 2 terms, yeah. So first term, I think everyone is in the rush because the school doesn't have enough material for the kids to do it. It's like everything is the wrong folder, couldn't find anything. And then it's like every day we get a list of task you do. That's it. Then it's all rely like teacher kids what the number, what's the other English reading words, anything. And I think the second term the school is getting better. They put more, let's say, those face to face through the social media apps for the kids to jump online. At least they can through the camera to see their friends through the camera, to start talking to their teacher. More engaged, more engagement between each other and the teacher and the student. So I guess touch wood, if the things happen again, they probably tended to do more on this way instead of just giving us a list of the task that saying, all right, that's your task of the day, you're going to finish it. Then we have no idea where to start and when to. A lot of schools did it differently. What I'm hearing from you is there was sort of minimal face-to-face WebEx or Zoom video conference classroom teaching from the school that your daughters are at. I think there were other schools that maybe had more sort of classroom teaching. I certainly had one of my children who's in year 9. She had pretty much every single class online, Zooming with her whole grade, her whole class with the teacher. So the high schools might have done it a little bit differently because they only had like 45-minute blocks that they would actually be face-to-face teaching through the screen. So for primary school age children, you're saying it would be nice if there was a little bit more engagement with teaching on the screens and actual discussions and stuff like that. Especially for their young age. I think it's also important it's very important for them to be able to see their friends, their classmates. Even it's not in real person, face to face, but at least they every time I see they feel very excited, like the happiness on the face when they see the friends on the screen. So they would just start talking about it. So it's good, if they can put more those engagement when they put into the homeschooling online. Maybe it's because their mental health has been impacted as well. They just not remember the things or just don't take the things in, to take the things in. But I don't think they learn much through this online learning method. Or maybe because they are still young, that's not the best method for them to learn.
That's right.
The fundamental,
What sort of behaviours did you see from your girls, and maybe as well your son, even though he's only a little toddler? I mean, I'm sure he would have been feeling the energy in the house or the struggles that everyone was going through. So were there any behaviours that you witnessed that were a bit unusual in that time?
I think he is the less impact person in the family. My youngest, 1.5, he always feel like, oh my God, I've got a surrounding by my sisters and parents and grandmas. He's happy. Totally. It's more about my grade 1, she's okay. because if she's feel like unhappy or anything, she's like she will tend to speak out. But for my older ones, because she's 9, she's at the age that quite sensitive, so I can feel like the certain level of her anxiety and depression. Because I like before, I don't believe there's a thing like for the children to have anxiety or depression, or but she's like more aggressive when you say something that she disagree. And then even like she's a quiet person, she's very nice, soft and quiet, but during that time it's everything she's make it such a big drama. Then I never realized that she tried to find a way to let her out, like she had always a big cry, and when it's just a small tiny thing that it didn't make her happy. So I think that's just showing that she's having something like the anxiety.
That was a difference that you noticed that maybe came in because of the strain and stress.
Like what I said before, like she was had a big cry when the government saying, all right, the grade 3 is not going back to school. She just couldn't stop.
How would you describe your relationship with your children in that time? I know personally, I'll be honest, I had really hard days. Yeah.
Oh my God, intense. The school thing, like especially when you teach them something, and I'm not a very patient person, and I don't know how the school teach them, and my way to teach them, like I guess it's very different. And they like when they're receiving the message are differently, and it's just like when I told them once, twice, 3 times, and after that I was just like, oh my God, it's like, how can you not understand the thing? Then I'm getting angry, and she's getting angry, so it's quite intense. But lucky I've got my husband help out. He was a very like patient person, let's say. He was like, all right, he always pull me aside saying, okay, leave this to me, I'll teach them how to let me go through this, so you just go have a coffee or something, go to backyard,
have a break. Wow, that's great tag teaming. Well done to him. It was intense, and it is, and it's really understandable, I think, for those frustrations to occur. But do you feel like now, as we're going back to school now, and things have changed again, how's your relationship now with your girls? Do you have any do you have any long-term or short-term concerns about anything from this time?
Not really. After they go back to school, everything going back to sweet again. We are just like a sweet mother-daughter relationship every day, just like a better day. We had an argument sometimes still, but it's just like normal mother-daughter talks, and it's
okay, great.
a lot of healthier. That's a lot healthier. And now she tells me that what she wants, not like before, she just give the attitude instead of telling you what she wants. So it's a lot better.
Okay, so she's pretty much not displaying the same sort of levels of irritation and stress that she was. She's gone back to her friends and variety of people around her, not just having you as her teacher and in the home so much.
That's right.
That's good. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it was an intense journey, that's for sure. Have you had similar sort of observations of other people's children that you know in the community that you're in or the school that you're in? Do you feel like there's a bit of a similar experience from other people that you know as well? Or
I guess we all the same when we're talking about like we have mothers group or we have friends like who have a same age kids at home. They were just every time we were talking about homeschooling, they was like, oh, I can't, just like my head going to twice the size. I can't do it. And lucky I'm not working. Some of them, they are still working from home. At the same time, they have to, I've got my friends, she's working from home. At the same time, she has to look after the kids' homeschooling. She was like, I'll just let them do it. Whatever they do, they do. If they don't do it, they miss out. Sorry, I can't help. Like
what can you do?
She was like, I can't split myself into 2 person to help to finish the task. It's too hard.
It is. A certain level of acceptance of that is going to be necessary, isn't it? Do you sort of know any children or adolescents personally or through friends that have experienced sort of high levels of anxiety or depression, or apathy is another word that has been used a lot for this particular period of time, meaning a loss of hope, or aggression, things like that.
Yeah, well, that's from my friends. That's made all of us a bit concerned. Her daughter, she's in grade 6, and because that time they haven't lifted the restriction, and the kids were told that they are not be able to have a grade 6 graduation ceremony. And then not even the school photo taken, and she was so desperate. She was like, I think she left us something on the social media about losing interest in about life. This years, like they want to skip this year, something like really make people, all these comments make people concerned.
Right.
But lucky they found out earlier, and the parents was just keep eyes on the girls, and I think they did something.
Yeah.
But from what I heard, it's just really like, you can tell, like if my grade 3 has such a different behavior, I'm pretty sure all the older kids, especially those ones who are nearly graduation or like for the grade 6, it's going to be even worse, the situation.
Adolescent hormonal influences, adolescent
everything
struggles are a concern in any way, but this has really impacted that age group of adolescents in a lot of ways, I think, too. Well, I'm glad that your daughters have emerged now and they're going back to school, and that you guys are through.
We are back to Swiss.
Oh, I know. Let's talk a little bit about your mental health as we near the end of our interview. We're just going to go through some questions about you personally. So how could you describe your feelings over the course of the year, as we've sort of moved through from January, February? I mean, I guess from December you knew what was happening in China, and then we kind of all of a sudden, bang, the work situation happened for you in March. I mean, how did you go in that time, in a nutshell? What was your sort of journey through that period of time mentally?
Let's say I was on the emotional roller coaster. So at the beginning, when the pandemic started, I was worried about my mom, like couldn't go travel overseas, couldn't see her like sisters and relatives. And when we started, and because we've been stood down, especially I've been stood down, so it's like the insecure has like, oh, where's the future? That kind of like, where's the future? All the worries. I'm like all the worries came out together. Like, where's my future? What am I gonna do if I lose a job? Are they gonna have the redundancy gonna happen? Are they gonna open the door? It's all the things. And after that, the homeschooling make me like really stressed. It's just like up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
That
is actually a term that a friend of mine and some of the people that I've interviewed on this podcast have mentioned as well, that aptly describes that roller coaster. It's the Corona coaster, actually, the Corona coaster. And I think that we've all experienced that levels of sort of going up and down. Where are we going now? What day is it? What time is it?
Also getting the habits, checking like what's the number of every day that people has been infected, how many deaths on the day. If it's a low number, we are so happy. If it's a high number, we are just start, oh my God, it's like, I got sort of, until now, I'm still checking every day. What's the number of the day? It's in fact, or like if it's a donut day, which means 0 and a 0, I'll be I'll be like, oh, it's a good day. Let's go shopping.
That affects your mood. Wow. Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
We'll think about, let's go shopping happily. If there is a 1 or 2 case, I start concerning about, should I wear not going to this place? Is that safe for me to take my kids to the park?
Yeah.
Those like the numbers affect me a lot.
The data. Yeah. Interesting. And and obviously that then affects your mood, which then affects the people around you, which is obviously a ripple effect in your household. And then, you're all in it together in this kind of, little microcosm of mood changes, isn't it? So what were some of the things that you did to cope with the feelings that you experienced, which were a little bit more challenging, like levels of anxiety, perhaps, that, around security at work, and things like that? What were some of the things you did to cope with those feelings?
Funny enough, during this pandemic, I developing a hobby. about the indoor plants. And I'm just like a crazy lady. Yeah, keep buying all kind of indoor plants.
Lovely.
One of my room just looked like a little jungle. But
Mm.
saying that, it helps a lot. Seriously, it helps a lot. About my, like when I was really stressed, I'll just go into that some room to stay with, like, checking all my plants and doing things.
Yeah, nice.
And maybe that's why, yeah, it's like in the whole plant community, I found the price just gone like crazy, from $10-$20 a small plant gone to 100, even 1,000.
Really?
It's
So there
because
was
people, yes,
yeah.
because people are keep buying it like a plant holder.
I wonder about
That's
that.
how.
That's really interesting to me. Maybe it's because maybe it's something to do with the connection to nature and how healing that is, or yeah.
Yes, it's true. It's like you will see the price go dramatically increase from a lower number to just like gone crazy because people keep buying it. And you know how, like, we had a Facebook group. It's more than 20,000 people all around, like in Victoria. Yes.
Wow.
And those, yeah.
I think that's a beautiful hobby. I think that's a beautiful thing to be reaching out to. Unfortunately, the prices rose, but you know, going back to the earth and getting into the garden and kind of connecting with the living world again is a really, really healthy way to do it.
It helps when you concentrate on one thing, you forget about all the bad things outside that community. Like when I just taking care of my plants, I've got more than 50 plants, just let you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
so when
awesome.
taking care of them, I will just in the short period I'll forget about things, which healing me a lot. Like, to be honest, even my husband's was like, if you're not happy, go get yourself a plant or do something about your plant, even indoor or outdoor gardening. Yeah, that was
gorgeous.
That was healing.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's very meditative, very meditative, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, wow. Beautiful. Were there things that you actually did that were against the social restrictions that were put in place for us in Victoria to help yourself? So, you know, maybe going outside that 5-kilometre zone, or going out with a face mask and kind of breathing, you know, in the air without wearing your face mask, or visiting a friend, things like that. Was there anything that you did other than your beautiful
Not
plants?
really. Not really, but I had a once or twice just driving to people's like in my 5 kilometers radius, but I driving to my friend's front door and then we're talking at the driveway. Yeah, to just say like, oh, I need to see you. That's it. Like just see you to see you.
You just needed to see her face to face. Yeah, like not over the screen.
That's right. We're still talking like 1.5 meters away from each other.
Yeah.
But it's better to see face to face. I think that's probably the one or two things I'm going against the policy.
Yeah. But that's, still that social distancing, but actually just going, I need to get around this somehow and actually be in the same space as my friend.
Yeah, that's right.
What were some of the what was there one particular aspect of the social restrictions that really bothered you more than others? You know, was there something that really you found really difficult? What was it for you that you found most hard out of it all?
Not really. Well, because I've got other things keep me busy, so I don't find anything too harsh or too much.
Sounds like just the insecurity of not knowing when you're going to go back to work, and the homeschooling situation, where those were the two big things that you found most challenging.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, sure.
But because we've got a government financial support, which is JobKeeper, that at least make us feel like, oh, it's not end of world. Like we're still getting money, a little bit social support from the government.
Sure, so you can still put food on the table, and it wasn't sort of feeling.
Yeah, and I'll always telling myself like, oh, for the kids homeschooling, if they're not gonna learn this year, they miss 1 year, they can always catch up later. That's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
Keep telling myself. That's how I feel myself feel better.
Yeah, putting things into perspective like that, absolutely. And what are your observations on how the tight restrictions have affected those people you know? I was interested to hear what you were saying about how Australians are not used to having these government directives so much as your country of origin. So have you noticed anyone that you know are really struggling with the restrictions and yeah, what are your
Yes,
thoughts on
I've
that?
got one of my mates from work. He's one of the one anti, let's say, anti-danger or anti the
Yeah,
government. Like
yeah.
all the policies that come from the dance government, he was not happy with it. He was like, we shouldn't wear masks if there is no community transmission, which makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like he said, well, he can't breathe freely, and everything. He's just not happy with it.
Yeah,
He's one of the person. We are still friends. Like we understand that everyone has a different view. We're still
totally. Yeah,
friends, but he's just like keep telling us how he feels that go to, and he's one of those extreme,
yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
personality go to like He was even asked us to be supporting him to go protest. I was like, no, 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 like you have your view, like we can't just
Yeah, we'll agree
we
to
respect your
disagree.
view.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's been really interesting, which is why I did this podcast too, because lots of people feel so differently about things. But yeah, so you have witnessed that there's been people around you that have been quite affected by those rules that have been put in place.
Yeah, because I think they just like his lifestyle. Because he used to be like going camping, fishing, golf all the time. He's not that kind of guy. Can't live without going to the beach,
Yeah,
going to swimming. All this
quite.
has been restricted. He feels like there's no hope, nothing to do in his life. So I
Yeah,
understand. I understand that. I totally understand. It's just
yeah,
everyone has different
absolutely.
experiences.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to have a variety of experiences and to let people and to actually accept that everyone's going to have their own process around
Mm,
it, isn't it? Um,
mm.
so you sort of felt connected to your friends and your social networks throughout this time, both here and overseas, just in whatever way you could manage. It didn't tend to feel too isolated, apart from the fact that you were just so busy on the ground doing this home education thing. But you didn't feel completely alone because you had your husband, I'm assuming, and your family around you and your friends that you could call.
No, I was doing well because
Mm.
I keep talking to catch up with the workmates and
Uh-huh.
friends, or even the like all the parents from the kids, some of the parents from the kids' school, and my own
Yes.
friends overseas, and talking to my auntie, see how they feel. Yeah, even my mom was connecting to her. Like my mom was taking Zoom English class
Ah.
to get yes, and a cooking class as well.
Oh, good on
Like
her.
yeah, so it's not too bad. Like everyone in our household just trying our best to be connected to the others, to the outside world.
To the outside world. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
Um, I guess, how would you feel if I was to tell you that we're going to go into another lockdown next March, for example, at that onset of the next sort of
Mhm.
flu and COVID season? How does that make you feel, having experienced, this particular year and kind of going through that roller coaster ride? Do you feel like you're more prepared, or do you feel like does your whole body just go, no? What does it make you feel?
Well, obviously, no is the thing, but I'll cut my hair before they start the lockdown.
Yeah, that's it. Good call. Yeah, let's all shave our heads
Yeah,
shave
that's
their
just too
heads.
much. Like 6 months with no haircut. Everyone came out like a caveman. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
We
all
will
right.
well, like if there's another lockdown, we will be like well prepared, let's say,
Yeah,
mentally. And
yeah.
yeah.
I haven't asked you one of the questions. It's just a very simplistic question, but I haven't asked you one of the questions that I like to sort of see the responses about mental health from different people. On a scale of 1 to 10, what was your lowest kind of ranking on the mental health level? What describe, what level you kind of got to when it was at its lowest point, one being kind of suicidal thoughts, like not wanting to go on anymore, and 10
Mm.
being the highest. So what was your lowest state of mental health, and what was your highest in that time, do you reckon?
So if I feel so, one is when I feel like I
You
don't
don't
want
want
to
to
live
continue,
anymore.
you don't want to live. No, yeah, that's the bottom.
That kind of, let's
Yeah.
say lowest 5.
Okay.
It's just like I feel no hope and I
Yep.
can't see the future. But I know life's still going on. Even that way, we're gonna find it. Even it's just like we're not gonna have a saying I don't have my job and a kid's gonna be there. We're still gonna find a way to live to survive.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. So 5
Yeah,
was pretty much the way.
but now it's getting better. So it's like slowly going back up to 7, 8, 9, let's say.
Yeah.
Like I can still see the hope because everything in Melbourne are going back to normal.
Mm-hmm. Did you rise
So
above a
yeah.
5 through lockdown, or did you just sort of sit at that point? Did you ever have days when you were in the lockdown that you were actually at, 7 or 8 in that time or not?
Probably the lowest is during that time when we had a second lockdown, like the second wave when we
Mm,
started, and our numbers are like when we check the infected number every day, the number is going high to up to 700 ish every day.
mm-hmm.
That's probably the lowest. I was like, I can't see any hopes because from the experience from the other country, when we see their numbers from 700,
Mm.
usually toward to the 1,000, 10,000, those kind of scary number. So
Okay, yeah.
that time was probably last a week until we start seeing that the numbers not going. Yeah, it's just a simple number from the government tells us that impact me, like make me feel like it's a happy day or not.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. Well, um, have you got any concerns, I guess, or what are your thoughts or opinions on the impact of COVID-19 on more of a global level and, certainly for this country, not just yourself and your family and our community in Victoria, but Australia and then the world. Have you got any concerns about the impact long term or short term about COVID-19?
I think we have a big financial damage through this country. Like we
Mm,
don't have people because we are famous for tourism as well, and our import and export thing, like our it has been paused or stopped. Even for my from my own industry, like we don't have any
mm,
overseas customer. We are
yeah,
open to we are world famous like venues, but we
yeah,
just don't have any customer coming from the other countries, and we
sure.
have to stop a few like huge big events, gaming events, which it's bad. Like, but I
Mm,
think we have a lot of like financial damage to heal
absolutely.
as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, the ripple effects, we're only just sort of we have no idea what that will be actually, but yeah, we can only imagine that the ripple effect
And
from this
then,
is going to go on.
and because of the financial damage, it's gonna affect the job market. That's
Yeah,
like more related to me if we're gonna have a job or not, if we're gonna get a pay or pay cut, or like that's something related to our day to day, like living life.
that's
So
right.
that's
Yes,
a bit of concern. It's not gonna happen like a day or two, but there is a certain something to need to be healed, like need to be done to
yeah,
for the damage to be recovered.
yeah, yeah. It's really valid. Well, my final question for you today, Cassie, is was there like a particular image or a particular dream, a recurring kind of thought, or even just a style of music that you were drawn to, or something that were kept kind of playing around in your head throughout this lockdown year of 2020 in Victoria? Something that you were drawn to, maybe a piece of artwork or a song, anything like that that you can think of that you had kind of that kept coming up for you at this time?
It's funny you asked this question because I was every time I was a bit sad, not sad, depressed, or I feel like a bit too much. I have
Mm,
those images when we went to holiday last year, when we like me and my two girls and hubby before the boys was born. It's like the when we at the airport we look at the flight. That's the pic. That's that kind
that
of
image is there for you.
image keep like mirroring in my mind. That's just
Mm,
I remember that was me, hubby looking at the girls standing at the window, look at the airplane.
yeah.
Yeah, that's keep coming in and coming in and coming. So I guess I'm still having hope.
Dreaming that you're going to go on a holiday again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a
Yeah.
beautiful like a
Yeah.
moment. Then it's just keep coming in and coming. And I even talked to my husband about this, saying like, oh, how come it's keep popping into my mind about like that just particular that picture, the girl standing and looking at the airplane. Maybe I
It's
was
amazing.
hoping we have a yeah,
Yeah.
we want to have a holiday. Desperate.
I think so. I know. Well, that's why I asked this question, because the more people I talk to about it, in my daily life before I started doing these interviews and this podcast, the more I realized that there was these little bits of hope, things that our psyche particularly was drawn to, and that these are sort of powerful images or powerful messages from our deepest subconscious or our own selves that we're kind of clinging to in at these times of adversity when we're really challenged. So it's really interesting for me to hear people's responses and where their minds and their hearts kind of went in this time. And I think that's a really positive, that's a really lovely image.
Yeah, I think my body is like, my minds keep telling me we need a holiday. That's how I believe.
I think you do. Yeah, I hope you get it too. Fingers crossed, hey?
We all need a holiday.
Oh, God, yeah. Looks hopefully in the Southern Hemisphere here, it's going into summer. We're in probably a better place than the rest of the world is at the moment because we've gone through our winter. The Northern Hemisphere's in lockdowns all over the place right now, and they're dealing with numbers and cases and the impact of what we have just emerged from. I mean, this is not over, but for us, we have some warmer weather to look forward to, and we have the opportunity for a bit more ease. So, I very much appreciate that at the moment, as I'm sure you do. I would like to thank you, Cassie, for offering us an insight into the Chinese community here in Melbourne and a little bit of an understanding of, where you've come from and your place of origin and how your household and your community have been affected by coronavirus and COVID-19 and the repercussions from it. Yeah, and I really appreciate you sharing your story with us today on this podcast. I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I have this opportunity to at least to speak out, to share how I feel, like the whole thing from the beginning to the end as a minority, like Chinese Australian living here. So it's a different feeling from like me to the others who are just like Aussie or the Aussie from the Europe, like people from Europe. We all have a different feeling. So
yes, absolutely.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm glad. Thanks, Amanda.
No worries, Cassie. It was a pleasure, and you've offered us some great understanding of where you've come from. So thank you.
Thanks.
You've been listening to Lockdown Stories from Inside. I hope you've enjoyed this interview and it's provided you with plenty of food for thought and the opportunity to expand your understanding of the breadth of human experience. Thank you for lending your ears as we walked a mile in someone else's shoes. See you next time.